You're good, LeBron. But you're not LeBron James. Not yet. These words echo across a practice court in Akron, Ohio, on a random day in 2003. A black kid, barely 18, with muscles like black sandbags, pauses mid-warm-up. His eyes, those eyes that carry the weight of an entire city, blink once. The words came from his coach, a respected man. But young LeBron James doesn't feel disrespect. He feels something worse. He feels the man is absolutely wrong, because in that moment, in that exact instant, LeBron James is already LeBron James. He can feel it in every cell of his body. He can feel it in the way the ball responds to his fingers when he shoots, as if gravity surrenders just for him. He can feel it in the way the other kids on the court, talented kids, kids with dreams, step aside when he goes for the basket. They don't just fear him. They respect him with a devotion that borders on religiosity. LeBron James wasn't born by chance alone. He was sculpted by suffering. His mother, Gloria, was a girl when she had him. His father, Anthony, was a ghost in the fog of his earliest memories. The poverty of Akron wasn't a backdrop. It was an active character in his life, always whispering that he had to be different, had to be special, had to be the one who escaped. And escape he was. At 17, he was a legend at St. Vincent St. Mary Preparatory High School. At 18, he was the future greatest thing basketball had seen in a generation. Everyone said it. Everyone saw it. Everyone bowed. But on that court, as the late afternoon light streamed through the windows of the training facility, LeBron looked at his coach, and something happened inside him. A shift, an imperceptible shift. Because that man, who had once been his mentor, his guide, was telling him something LeBron had already learned to ignore, that he needed more, that he needed growth, that he needed humility. LeBron smiles. It's a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "Thank you," he says, his voice too soft, too calm. And he walks toward the basket, to the sound of the other boys clapping, because everyone knows, and LeBron knows too, that in a few months he'll be the first pick in the NBA draft, that he'll make history, that he won't need anyone anymore. That smile was the sign of a man who had decided that humility was a weakness, and weakness was death. When LeBron James puts on the Cleveland Cavaliers number 23 uniform for the first time, that uniform that doesn't yet shine with any championship rings, that's still just fabric and numbers, something sacred happens. The camera of destiny finally comes into sharp focus. The boy from Akron, the one who slept in different houses because his mother couldn't pay the rent, the boy who ate less so his mother could eat more, the young man who always knew he was special, is finally allowed for the whole world to know. The first few years in the NBA are like a symphony composed especially for a young genius. LeBron scores 30 points. LeBron performs miracles. LeBron doesn't just play, he rewrites the rules of the game with his hands. It's like watching someone paint a master painting while you're still trying to correctly draw a rectangle. Fans worship, the media documents, opponents suffer, and somewhere deep down, LeBron begins to believe that all this adoration isn't an opportunity to serve or grow. No, it's confirmation. Proof that he's different, that he's superior, that the rules that apply to other men, about humility, about teamwork, about respect, maybe don't apply to him. At 21, LeBron is practically a godlike being in Cleveland. He walks the halls of Quicken Loans Arena like a prince. The staff members step aside. Security guards clear paths. The cameras follow him like predators chasing hot meat. And when he speaks, anything that comes out of his mouth is received as if beamed straight from heaven. LeBron begins giving interviews where he talks not only about his game, but about his life, his destiny, his inevitable place among the greatest players who ever stepped onto a basketball court. He talks about Michael Jordan. And when he talks about Jordan, there's something in his tone, a confidence that's not quite arrogance, but very close, that suggests that maybe, just maybe, he's already comparable, or that he will be soon. and that it won't be that long. Commentators love him because he sells ratings. Fans love him because he embodies their dreams. Opposing teams hate him because he's unbeatable. And LeBron, at that precise moment in his life, makes the choice many successful young people make. He mistakes admiration for permission. He mistakes talent for wisdom. He mistakes fame for fulfillment. He begins to believe in his own mythology. The years pass. 2004, 2005, 2006, LeBron scores more points. He racks up more assists. He wins awards. His numbers keep growing, like waves in an endless storm. He is the face of American basketball. He is the future. He is, by every metric that matters to most people, a complete success. But there's one crucial detail no one whispers. LeBron is getting lonely. You're becoming lonely because when you believe you're so special, that your talent transcends the normal structures of a team, when you believe that championships will come because you're you, and that's it, well, other people eventually stop trying to catch up. They just work around you. They don't play with you. They play for you. And there's a world of difference between those two things. LeBron starts talking about an inevitable championship, not as a hope, not as a goal, like something written in the stars, like something that's already happened in the future and is just waiting for the clock of the present to reach that moment. And when you say things like that, when you turn your dreams into pronouncements of destiny, you place a very specific burden on the shoulders of those around you. A burden called not letting genius disgrace us. On the coaching bench, on the Cavaliers staff, there are men who see this happening. Men who know basketball, who have spent decades studying the game, who see the best player of their lives believing he's so special that his team's fundamental deficiencies don't matter. That he's so special he can win on his own. That he's so special that the other 19 players on his court are almost ornamental. And then 2006 arrives. The Cavaliers have a decent team built around LeBron. It's not a super team. It's not a team that on paper should win a championship. But it's a team. And LeBron is too rejuvenated, too in tune with his times, too certain about his place in the universe to notice. What he notices is that the Cleveland arena is packed, that 100,000 people in Ohio wake up every morning praying for miracles to be performed in his name, that he is worshipped, that he is a sacred figure. And this adoration, that forbidden fruit that has grown in his mind, finally becomes intoxication. In the 2006 playoffs, the Cleveland Cavaliers face the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons don't have a LeBron James. They don't have a superstar who shines like a god. But they have something LeBron had begun to lose: humility. They have respect for the game. They have a defensive structure that's like a perfect maze, where every man knows his role and executes it like a soldier. And then, in that playoff series, something happens that LeBron had never truly experienced at his professional level. He's contained, not defeated, contained, controlled, managed. The Pistons' defense doesn't leave him alone to do whatever he wants. Every time he touches the ball, there are 2 or 3 bodies surrounding him. Like hyenas testing a lion, LeBron scores his points, but he scores them harshly, inefficiently, frustratedly. And in the final series, when Cleveland has a chance, when all it needs to do is win at home, LeBron has 15 points and 9 assists in his worst game of the year. The Cavaliers lose, the Pistons win, and for the first half of his professional career, LeBron James walks off the court like a loser. There is an exact moment, a point in time, that can be precisely marked on a calendar, when an arrogant man faces the reality that has been waiting for his turn to confront him. For LeBron, that moment is May 20th, 2006, a Sunday night in a quiet city. He's in his room. There are no cameras, no admirers, no endless crowd calling him a genius. There's just LeBron, the gray walls, and the sound of his own breathing. And that night he understands something no amount of willpower or dedication to training had taught him. You can't win alone, no matter how good you are, no matter how many points you score, no matter how many ribbons you break or how many records you break. If you're alone, truly alone, spiritually alone in a team that surrounds you, you will lose. And you will lose often. But here's the part that makes this story important. Here's the part that separates an ordinary man from a true champion. LeBron doesn't do what many do when faced with this reality. He doesn't blame. He doesn't make excuses. He doesn't retreat into his nighttime thoughts to a place where defeat won't reach him. Instead, he cries, silently, completely, without witnesses. He lets that arrogance drain from his body like poison being drawn from a wound. The years between 2006 and 2008 are a slow pilgrimage. LeBron continues to play at an extraordinary level. His numbers get bigger every year. But now, in every statistic, there's an invisible void. An asterisk. A ghost that can't be ignored. He sees Michael Jordan at events. He sees Jordan's rings on his fingers, 6 of them, each weighing the truth of a championship. And the arrogance that once whispered that maybe he was already Jordan, or soon would be, now screams the opposite truth. You haven't won anything yet. You're just a pretty boy scoring a lot of points on a losing team. LeBron begins to study the game differently. Not to add more moves to his offensive arsenal. He already had all of that. But to understand why he couldn't win. To grasp that fundamental detail that had been obscured by his own genius. And then, one night in 2007, LeBron has an epiphany that transforms him completely. He realizes his arrogance had a seductive sheen. She made him seem confident. She made him seem special. But true confidence, the kind built on humility, does something arrogance never can. It brings people together. An arrogant player who scores 40 points often leaves his teammates in a different place mentally. They play to serve that arrogance. In contrast, a humble player who scores 30 points and adds 15 assists, a player who celebrates his teammates as much as he celebrates his own accomplishments, builds something sacred, mutual trust. LeBron realizes he had accumulated talent, but squandered relationships. He had built a personal narrative, but dismantled a team structure. And that all his extraordinary power, all his supernatural strength, had been weakened by the loneliness he had created himself. In the winter of 2007, LeBron did something he hadn't done since becoming an idol. He asked for help. Not in an interview, not publicly, but privately with his trainer, his strength and conditioning coach, and the team's experienced players. I don't know how to win, he said. Those 6 words are perhaps the most important that ever came out of his mouth, because he's not admitting he's weak. He's admitting he misunderstood his own game, that his arrogance had created a specific blindness, that he'd lost the ability to see beyond himself, and that this lack of vision was precisely the reason for his defeats. An assistant coach, a man named Dave Griffin, pulls him aside during a practice and says something LeBron will never forget. LeBron, you're so good that everyone else is afraid to talk to you. Everyone else is afraid to be honest. Everyone pretends everything is perfect because you're playing. But the truth? That truth that no one has the courage to tell you? You've let your ego eat away at everything around you. LeBron feels those words like a punch. And for the first time in years, he doesn't try to argue. He doesn't try to justify. He doesn't try to retell a story where the blame lies with someone else. He just absorbs it. In the months that follow, LeBron undergoes a transformation that isn't visible on the scoreboard, but is fully visible to those who understand the game. He begins passing the ball with a different intention. He begins defending with a dedication that goes beyond statistics. He begins celebrating his teammates' points as if they were his own. And when his teammates see this change, something happens within them too. They understand that the man who led them has finally stepped down from the pedestal he himself had built. And when someone of LeBron James's stature voluntarily steps down from a pedestal, those around him naturally rise to meet him. The first half of the 2008 season is an improved symphony. LeBron remains a force of nature. His 35 points per night now come with 10 assists. His offensive rivals are still hurting, but his defense is so stifling that opponents wonder if he can still play basketball. The Cavaliers win 66 games. It's the best record they've ever had as a team. It's as if that humility has unleashed a dormant magic. In the 2008 playoffs, Cleveland storms through the early rounds. But then, in the Eastern Conference Finals, they face the Orlando Magic. The Magic have Dwight Howard, another young basketball giant, someone who could also be described as special. And they have a shooter named Hedo Turkoglu, who never loses his focus. The series is tight. It's a clash of titans. But at a crucial moment, when Cleveland has the ball with the game tied and just 5 seconds remaining in Game 7, LeBron does something the old LeBron never would. He searches, not for himself, for his teammate Anderson Varejao. And that pass where LeBron could have scored and probably would have been heroic, that pass is stolen. Orlando scores. Cleveland loses. And that night when LeBron returns to his room, he doesn't cry just because he lost. He cries because he finally understands. Victory doesn't come from individual heroism. It comes from the sacrifice you make for others. It comes from the confidence you build even when you know you could have won alone. This is the lesson that arrogance can never teach. The summer of 2008 is the darkest of their professional lives. LeBron didn't just lose, he learned while losing. And this combination of emotions, pain, understanding, loneliness, the weight of knowing he might have caused his own downfall is almost unbearable. He spends hours in the gym at midnight, not to add points to his game, but to process, to think, to finally allow reality to complete his education. For the first time in his career, LeBron questions whether he's in the right place, whether Cleveland, the city that raised him, that made him a man, is truly where he belongs. The team owners expect him to win. The fans expect him to win. And LeBron knows, with a certainty bordering on despair, that those Cavaliers don't have the right materials to win a championship. Not because he lacked talent, but because he finally understood that his talent alone was not enough. In the summer of 2010, LeBron James faces a decision that will be discussed for generations, leaving Cleveland and joining the Miami Heat. When he announces this on television, the moment Cleveland fans will call a betrayal, he is actually doing something much more profound. He's applying the lesson he learned about humility. Because to go to Miami, to play with Dwyane Wade and Chris Bosh, LeBron has to stop being the sole savior. He has to be a warrior in an army. He has to trust other players just as talented as he is. He has to let go of that lone leadership that has served him so well and so poorly. Haters curse him. Journalists condemn his decision. Fans burn his jerseys. And on that night of July 8, 2010, when the whole world is against LeBron James, he feels something purer than he's ever felt before. Peace. Because he had finally chosen the right thing. Not for his ego, but for his chances of winning. He had sacrificed his role as the sole hero for a chance to be a member of a winning team. And in that choice, in that voluntary renunciation of superiority, was all the redemption he needed. The first few months in Miami were surprisingly humble. LeBron expected to be the star player, the most important one, the one who made the decisions. But Dwyane Wade, who had played in Miami since 2003, had other ideas. Wade was the king of Miami. It was his team. And LeBron, that boy who had been a deity in Akron, that young man who had been a monarch in Cleveland, had to learn to be a vassal, not because Wade was a good Polish, but because it was necessary for the three of them, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, to learn how to coexist, how to build something stronger than the sum of its parts. In training, there are moments of tension. There are moments when egos threaten to explode. But now, LeBron has tools he didn't have before. Now he knows that that tension is actually a harbinger of something magnificent. Now, he understands that the best gold is often forged in the fire of disagreement. In the 2010-11 season, the Heat had moments of brilliance interspersed with periods of inconsistency. They weren't a perfect team, but they were a team learning to trust each other. And at the end of that season, when they faced the Dallas Mavericks in the finals, they lost. They lost humiliatingly, in fact. They lost in front of the entire world, while LeBron, who should have been the hero, failed. After that 2011 loss, Miami is devastated. Critics scream that LeBron will never win, that he's handsome when he's apart, but he doesn't know how to be a team player, that his arrogance, that old arrogance he thought he'd transcended, has finally caught up with him, and LeBron, that young man who once responded to any criticism with unshakable confidence, says nothing. He simply disappears. He works, he trains, he thinks. Meanwhile, Miami wonders, was this a mistake? Did the experiment fail? Is LeBron just an individual player who can't be part of something bigger? In the summer of 2011, during individual workouts, LeBron has another epiphany. But this time it's different. This time it's not about ego or arrogance. It's about complete acceptance. It's about understanding that the pain he felt, losing in 2006, losing in 2008, losing in 2011, all that pain was actually a teacher. That pain taught him that success wasn't a right, that being good wasn't enough, that being a champion required not only talent, but also sacrifice, humility, and a genuine love for his teammates that went beyond the need for individual victory. The following summer, in 2012, something fundamentally changed in LeBron James. It wasn't a change in movement. It wasn't a change in technique. It was a change in soul. He took Dwyane Wade aside and said, "This year I die to you. You die to me. We defeat them together, or we don't defeat them at all." Wade saw something in LeBron's eyes he'd never seen before. It wasn't confidence. It was certainty, but a certainty that came from somewhere deeper. It came from someone who had been through spiritual suffering and had emerged not broken, but forged. The 2011-12 season was the season LeBron James finally transcended, not because his numbers were higher. In fact, his points per night actually decreased slightly, but because every point he scored, every assist he made, every save he made was made with purpose. When Miami faced the Oklahoma City Thunder in the finals, a Thunder team with three young superstars in Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden, the series was epic. But in Game 6, when everything was on the line, LeBron did something no one will forget. He played the best defense basketball has ever seen in a finals. Not just defensively passive, but defensively destructive. He stopped men. He blocked shots. He dug up loose balls. And when the game ended and Miami won, LeBron fell to his knees, not with his fist raised in triumph, but with his hands covering his face, because finally, after years of pain, of defeat, of self-inflicted humiliation, finally, he had achieved something no amount of arrogance could have given him, a championship that belonged to a team, not just to him. In the years that follow, 2013, 2014, 2015, LeBron James doesn't just win championships. He wins in ways that reveal the depth of his transformation. When he receives MVP awards, he shifts the focus to his teammates. When he scores decisive points, he celebrates as if the point had been scored by someone more important. Fans notice. Critics who slowly detested him develop respect. And eventually, what was once dismissed as arrogance, his absolute confidence, becomes seen for what it always was. The confidence that comes from someone who has been through the fire and emerged not only intact, but sacred. In an interview years later, far from the glare of the stadiums, in a quiet place where only honesty exists, LeBron is asked about his journey, about that initial arrogance, about the defeats, about the transformation. He pauses, and then says, there was a boy in Akron who believed he was special because he was better than other people. It was because he could do things others couldn't, and because people around him told him so every day. But there was a man in Miami who understood something very different. He understood that being special didn't mean being better. It meant being willing to be smaller so that the whole could be greater. It meant understanding that true power wasn't the power to dominate, it was the power to serve. In the summer of 2014, LeBron makes another monumental decision. He decides to return to Cleveland. Return to the city that raised him. Return to the fans who once loved him, then hated him, then tried to understand who he truly was. When he announces this, there are tears in his eyes, not of arrogance, not of triumph, but of recognition, of closure, of returning to a place that never left him alone, because it never left him alone. Over the next 4 years, from 2014 to 2018, LeBron transformed Cleveland into a city of champions again. He helped win a championship in 2016 that is perhaps the sweetest in Cavaliers history, because it comes with a sense of atonement. It's as if the boy who believed he was a god in 2003 had finally become a man. Today, when you talk to LeBron James, when you can see beyond the icon, beyond the legend, beyond the awards and records, he's a surprisingly humble man. He's still competitive. He's still fierce. He's still a winner. But you've won anything you win when you finally understand that all external victory is empty, without internal victory. The story of LeBron James, and this is what very young people need to understand, is not just the story of a boy who was very good and became a champion. It's the story of a boy who was too good, who believed in his own mythology, who experienced failure not as something to be avoided, but as a teacher. It's the story of someone who had to learn, through pain, through humiliation, through dark nights where no one saw him, that arrogance is a prison you build with your own talents, and that true power, true, real, immortal, sacred power, comes only when you have the courage to let that power serve something greater than yourself. In the stadiums where LeBron still plays, because even approaching 40, he refuses to give up, young players watch him, not just for his dunks, not just for his points, but for the way he treats his teammates, for the way he celebrates a substitute's victory as if it were a championship, for the way he talks about his rivals with genuine respect. And those young people, who may also be arrogant, who may also believe they're special, learn a lesson no coach can teach with words. They learn that true uniqueness isn't what you do alone. It's what you let happen when you put your ego aside. There's a court in Akron, a small court, where there are no cameras, where there are no crowds, where no one is watching. And on this court, which is next to a community where children still sleep in different houses because their parents can't pay rent, LeBron James returns regularly. He doesn't go there to be worshipped. He goes there to teach, to show those children, black girls and boys who face the same circumstances he did, that yes, you can be special, but special doesn't mean being above anyone else. Special means having responsibility. He tells stories. Stories that don't appear in any documentary. Stories about those nights in Miami when he wanted to leave. About 2011 when he thought he'd wasted his talent. About that precise moment when he realized that losing wasn't a flaw. It was a sign of education. And these children listen to him because they know he's not faking. They know that this man, who could be anywhere in the world, being flattered, being served, chose to be there. He chose to tell the truth about failure. He chose to reveal that even gods live moments when they are not gods. At its core, LeBron James's story is simple, but its simplicity is deceptive because it masks a depth that takes a lifetime to grasp. A boy is born without privilege, but with talent, and because he has talent, because he can do things others can't, he believes he deserves more. He deserves respect not only for what he does, but for who he is. He deserves loyalty, admiration, privileges. He deserves basically to be treated differently. And this boy, for years and years, pursues this difference. He works to amplify it. He cultivates the arrogance that accompanies it because it seems necessary. It seems to be the fuel that drives him forward. But then, when he finally gains the strength to see the truth, when failure finally catches up with someone who believed himself to be above failure, he learns something that will change his life forever. The real difference isn't the one that comes from talent. It's the one that comes from choice, because anyone can have talent. Many people are born with extraordinary abilities, but very few choose to use that talent not to elevate themselves above others, but to elevate them. Very few choose to transform their arrogance into humility. Very few choose to serve rather than reign. To that coach who said in 2003, "You're good, LeBron, but you're not LeBron James." Not yet, that man was right. But not for the reason he thought. LeBron James, the real LeBron James, wasn't complete when he started scoring 40 points a night. He wasn't complete when he won MVP awards. He wasn't complete when he became the face of basketball. LeBron James was fulfilled at the precise moment he learned that his genius was not to be celebrated in isolation. It was the moment he understood that all his extraordinary power had only one true purpose: to serve something greater than himself. This is the story. This is the lesson. This is the scar turned into a monument. Tonight, somewhere in the universe, there's an empty court. No lights, no sounds, just a basketball rolling slowly toward a hoop. In that empty court, there is the ghost of a boy who believed he was a god. There is also the spirit of a man who finally understood that he is only human. And between these two, between the one who was and the one who became, there is an invisible bridge. A bridge made of pain, of failure, of tears shed alone in dark rooms, of victories that meant nothing until they finally meant everything. The ball goes into the basket without making a sound, because there's no one to hear it. There are no cameras to record it. There are no crowds to cheer, only the eternal truth that true glory is not what you overcome. It's what you choose to overcome within yourself. It's the price you pay for your arrogance, and the redemption you achieve when you finally realize you never should have paid that price. LeBron James, that kid from Akron, finally understood that being special was never about being different from others. It was always about having the courage to be like them, to suffer as they suffer, to grow as they grow, to learn that the greatest victory a human being can achieve is the victory over themselves. And this is a victory no camera can ever capture. But it's the victory that matters. It's the victory that lasts. It's the victory that transforms a boy into a man into a legacy into an eternal lesson for those who have the courage to hear it. They say that on certain nights, when the city of Akron sleeps, you can hear the sound of a basketball being tossed onto an empty court. You hear the sound of someone whispering to themselves. These are simple statements, phrases that sound like prayers. I'm just a boy. I need the others. My power is not mine, it is theirs. Thank you for teaching me through failure. Thank you for teaching me through pain. Thank you for teaching me the true meaning of glory. And when that whisper ends, the ball goes in. It always does. Because that's the ultimate truth of the LeBron James story. That when you finally understand, truly understand at your core, that you're not special for being better, but special for being able to serve those around you with genuine humility, well then, everything works. Everything flows. Everything becomes possible. This is the lesson. This is the scar. This is the story that must be told and retold until those who hear it understand that the greatest victory is never individual. It is collective. And he who understands this truly deeply with every fiber of his being, that is the true champion. LeBron James didn't just win championships. He won himself. And in that victory, that quiet victory, that victory no one can see in the statistics or the scoreboards, lies true glory, a story about a boy who learned that being special isn't about being above anyone. It's about being willing to be below everyone, to elevate those around you. A story about arrogance transformed into humility, about power transformed into service, about an external championship that finally became meaningful when there was an internal championship. This is the true story of LeBron James, and it's the story we all need to hear.